So welcome to our opening interview for Women on Purpose for the Planet. I am really thrilled to be here today with Clare Dubois. This is my third time interviewing Clare, who is the founder of an amazing organization called Tree Sisters. If you're not already familiar with it, you're going to be learning more about it today. She's an incredible social entrepreneur, visionary, and catalyst for change on this planet. And what I really love about Clare is her focus on nature-based feminine leadership. And this is why I wanted her to be the opening speaker for this event. So Clare, I am so thrilled to be here with you today. And I wanted to open with a question, which is why women and why now?
Well, let's start with the biggest question of all. Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you for inviting me again.
Cool.
And also welcome to everybody on Earth Day.
Yes.
And that, every day is Earth Day. Every day needs to be Earth Day. And in the absence of that, then let's make this one count. And when I had the car crash that gave me Tree Sisters, and I literally was swerving on ice, and a tree stopped me from going over an edge. The whole story of that you can actually see in the first speech I ever gave. If you look on YouTube for, my name then was Clare Dakin, but look for the Woman on Fire speech and you'll get the whole thing. Because it's an interesting story. But after I was given my initial, a voice started talking to me and it gave me this message about calling everything you do an experiment, because you can't fail an experiment, you can only learn. And this was to do with humanity running out of time around climate change. And then being told that we had to reforest the tropics within 10 years, which was a rather significant thing to be told. But what came next was this: you have to mobilize the women. The women are the missing piece. The women are the womb carriers, and Earth is womb. Women understand the cycles of life and death that happens in their bodies every month. You cannot do a linear, we can't live a linear life over the top of a cyclical planet and cyclical bodies. And that feminine consciousness was the consciousness of living systems, of nature, of health, of balance. That a woman's orientation is to walk into a room and look for or feel for how to bring the whole system into balance or equilibrium. And that is not how our world is. That's just not how our world is. So we're in a profoundly imbalanced, a normalized state of radical imbalance in our patriarchal world. And that is a world that has seen women as property for the longest time. It's seen women needing to be in a specific shape, in a specific way to be appropriate. It's seen our planet tamed and shredded, the natural world that we depend upon being seen as something simply to plunder and use. And, in the crash, I heard women and nature share a common history. What's been done to one has been done to the other. And I had kind of been, you can't not be aware of that living in this world of ours. But until that moment where it was just delivered to me in this kind of, women, you have a role to play. You're needed. It was a male voice talking to me, and it was really loud. I wasn't imagining it. It wasn't sort of a clairaudient thing. It was like somebody was there talking to me. And it ended with, women have to remember who and what they are. Feminine consciousness has to be reinstated or it's over.
Wow.
And so when you say why women and why now, I could say feminine consciousness has to be reinstated or it's over. And what do I mean by that? I mean the consciousness of relational intimacy with the natural world that is the source of our everything, and not just the things that we have, but the bodies that we have, the intelligence that we have is threaded through the natural world of which we are a part, that is breathing us, that is living us in this moment. And unless feminine consciousness, unless the capacity that women have to be in intimate relationship with the living world is reinstated in such a way that we can bring through what we call feminine nature-based leadership, the leadership that arises through women when they are connected to nature as the root of their nature. Unless we can bring through a different consciousness that is not just hell-bent on chewing up our planet and spitting it out for short-term financial gain, it's over. And I don't think we can ask the men in our world who are as indoctrinated away from themselves as we are to be the ones to bring back feminine consciousness. They can hold space, they can rebirth it in themselves, but there is half of the world's population that has been severely squashed and conditioned away from their nature that need to reclaim their nature. So that's why women. And why now? Because we're running out of time. And we cannot dominate our planet anymore as a way of being, because she can't stabilize herself anymore.
Thank you, Claire. That is extremely powerful. I can feel so much energy moving through my body as you speak. And I love this idea of feminine-based leadership that is really sourced in nature. And I'm wondering if you could speak more to some of the guiding principles underlying feminine-based leadership in alignment with nature.
You know, one of the things that we do is we look to nature as the source of our guidance. So, you know, some may call that biomimicry. If we're looking at biomimicry, then we're looking at the forest floor. We're looking at the fact that there is no individual tree in a forest. They're all completely connected at the roots, not just by the mycelial network that we all know more about now, but their roots are actually bonded together. They feed each other. They feed each other, they warn each other, they nourish each other, they hold each other up. If one is struggling, they flood it with each other's nutrients. If one knows that it's dying, it gives everything that it has to the other trees. They warn each other about predators and insects and fire, and nobody's in competition. They're in dynamic, unconditional collaboration and co-creation. That state of woven interdependence is a state of safety. And inside of Tree Sisters, we build our community. We build our global community like a forest floor. Inside the Tree Sisters nest, we call it the forest floor because there is a way that we can relate to each other as women where we're holding on to each other and providing a quality of support that feels safe in a way that our bodies have been longing for centuries. The safety of being with women in a way that is deeply nurturing, that is deeply supportive, that is non-competitive, that is not me or you, it's me and you. And that allows for a level of relaxation that can then support us to feel how we actually feel, really feel. And so we ground everything in community, like how we create safe community so that we feel safe enough to feel how things are. Our nervous systems are supported enough to be able to actually face what's happening in the world so that we can respond appropriately and then figure out how to bring our gifts. So there's this flow inside of Tree Sisters, which always starts with, first of all, bowing to the magnificence that everything is so that we understand that there's no point trying to figure this out with what's in here. You know, it's going to require what's in here, and it's going to require what's in our wombs. It's going to require our whole being to open up to the possibility of what it means to be a human being and what it means to be a woman. A human being that's not dominant to the planet, a human being that's part of the planet. And then moving into sisterhood, conscious sisterhood. And from there, understanding how to start listening to our bodies as part of the planet so that our actions come from a dynamically connected place. So feeling that indivisibility, not just conceptually, but going out and actually sitting with the trees, meditating with the trees, opening our bodies to the trees, opening our bodies to the sky, learning how to breathe with nature, learning how to listen for the voices of nature, learning how to follow our instincts. You know, that's what women are for. That's what we are. We know how to do that. It's inside us, all of us.
Beautiful. And what do you think holds women back from coming together and really being just this incredible force of change on the planet? Like, what do you think holds women back from rising together fully in this way that you're speaking of?
Well, I think, you know, on one level, let's look at the fact that women are rising all around the world, and we are getting over our fear, and we are coming out in great numbers, and we are standing for the things that we, you know, whether it's on the streets with activism or whether it's standing for political office, it's happening. Women are moving. It's coming. And what I see inside of Tree Sisters is we're afraid of each other. You know, we're afraid fundamentally of ourselves. We're afraid of our own power. We're afraid of being too much. We're afraid of being too little. We're afraid of eclipsing other women. We're afraid of rejection. We're afraid of having a go in case we get it wrong. We're afraid of all the usual stuff that everybody is essentially afraid of. But with women, you have to remember that in our DNA, if you're a Western woman, in our epigenetics, the witch burnings, you know, 300 years worth of profound torture and persecution and death, simply for being women, followed, you know, and prior to that, there being, you know, how women have been treated for thousands of years does not promote a feeling of complete freedom to either express ourselves in our beauty or our brilliance or our creativity or our power, because it's meant death, it's meant betrayal, it's meant subjugation, it's meant criticism, it's meant so many things that are the opposite of feeling cherished and celebrated. You know, we do not live in a world that actively wants to see women in positions of power. We live in a world that wants to see white men in positions of power. We don't live in a world that wants to acknowledge the flows or the intricacies of women's bodies. We live in a world that wants to see women show up as men. Well, we're supposed to match them and perform like them, that sees our fluid emotional state as less than rather than a profound gift where we can access different intelligences through the month. You know, women are not understood. What is unique about us is largely not valued. And so for us, I mean, when I was first given Tree Sisters, I didn't know who I was more afraid of. I didn't know whether I was more afraid of men being pissed off with me because I was celebrating women, or women being pissed off with me because I was celebrating women. I didn't know who I was going to be more attacked by, you know, but it was a genuine response to all my own conditioning around being a woman, that you did not do that. You did not celebrate yourself. You did not stand up and say, there is something worthy here that has value, and I'm going to single it out, and I'm going to guard it and protect it and say, we're going to hold a space for women to come together and heal. You know, not because men are better or worse or less or wrong or anything, just not to do with the men at all. Like, actually, we just need a space to heal, and we need to figure out who we are away from the men. Because as soon as you put us into relationship with men, all the classic conditioning of what our roles are that we've been indoctrinated with are there immediately. And so unless we get to have a space within which we can rebirth ourselves, rediscover ourselves, redefine ourselves, and then bring that more coherent expression of what woman truly is to the men, for them to be able to understand what their dance is around this new species, which is a reclaimed woman, or a rewilded woman, or an untamed woman, or a woman who's no longer there simply to be the appropriate thing, you know, then mankind gets to go, okay, so this is what a woman is. Then what is it to be a man in relationship to this woman? Well, it's not to consistently tell us that we're less than, or we're supposed to be a certain way in order to help the shape that men have become stay that shape. Both shapes have to change. Both shapes have to change. And that's frightening. It's frightening, because even though I could say inside every woman is the full wild river of untamed feminine power, how many of us know how to unleash that in our marriages, in our work scenarios, even on the dance floor? Like, how many of us fully know how to let go into the flow of who and what we really are, let alone show it to each other? You know, that's what's needed. We need to create a sisterhood where we are calling forth each other's magnificence, where we are unafraid to look for the courage in another woman, the brilliance in another woman, the creativity in another woman, the leadership in another woman, and celebrate it when it's there, not go into comparison, you know, not go into this dumbing down and this wound bonding that we've done for so long. It can't be about keeping each other safe anymore, not at the level of playing small. You know, we stand at this unthinkable juncture that we find ourselves in for the planet, and what that does is it throws down a gauntlet of, okay, what are you going to do? Are you going to live a half life? Are you going to live a whole life? Are you going to discover everything that you're made of, or are you going to keep your brakes on? And when I had that gauntlet thrown down in the car crash, I said, I'm going to keep my brakes on. I'm going to stay small. I was terrified of having a go and failing. I was terrified of having a go and believing that I would be a laughing stock, that I'd be attacked. I was so consumed with my inadequacies. I said no for 9 months until it would not leave me alone. And I had to, in the end, say, what matters more, the planet or my inadequacies? And the planet won. But that 9 months was like, I was in the underworld facing my demons. You know, what's holding women back? Our demons. And our demons are real. They're real. We're not imagining them. We're conditioned with wounds that tell us that it is safe to be this way, not that way. Wounds that tell us this far and no further. And we have to pass through that. We have to break through these membranes. And the only people that can do it is us. And the only way we can do that is by consciously recognizing that we've hit a fear and then weighing up, am I going to let this fear stop me? Or am I going to alchemize it with presence and attention and the willingness to feel it and the knowledge that it's not true or relevant to now, pass through it and discover who I am on the other side? Nobody else can do that for us, but we can do it holding hands with each other.
And as entrepreneurial women, we are often coming up against our edges almost every day. It can seem like, you know, there's so much growth and creative possibility as women entrepreneurs to really create a new paradigm of doing business. And of course, there are those edges and those challenges that we're always confronting in that process. And I'm just wondering, given that you are a social entrepreneur, if there's any wisdom you have to share about maybe practices that are working for you in doing business differently from this more feminine, nature-based leadership.
Gosh. You know, I dance. I dance almost every morning if I can, and every day, especially when I'm stressed. Put on some music.
Mm-hmm.
And I do it because I am on the front lines and it is really stressful. And I am pushed over my edges every single day. There's not a day when I'm not pushed up against my edges, but I choose to live that way because I'm damned if I'm going to stay small and limited. I want to discover who I am. And the only way of doing that is stepping out of your comfort zone at every possible opportunity. But I dance. And the reason I dance is because it gets me out of my head and it lets my body take over. And it lets my body move in whatever way my body needs to move the fear and move the stress. And generally speaking, I won't stop dancing until I've cried. And I've got it down to like 10 seconds. I can start dancing and be crying in 10 seconds because I have a practice of such surrender to my body moving my feelings because I need to alchemize it. I need it out of the way. I need that stress transformed. And crying is the way my body does it, or yawning. And when that's done, like when I've cried, generally speaking, if I carry on dancing, I can do all this in like 5 minutes. More creativity starts to come through me. Ideas come through me. The ideas that I listen to most are the ones that come when I'm dancing because my mind is out of the way. So that's a physical practice. Another practice is just go straight outside, sit down and start talking to a tree. Like the reason I talk to a tree is because I work for them. They're my partners. They're my breath. They're my lungs. They're my life. But if I can start to talk to them, then the stuff that is in the way can start to move. Like you create a circuit of conscious presence with a tree. It will call out of you the things that need to be spoken. And again, it's like a way of pipe cleaning so that you can get all of that stuff out and then come underneath that to different levels of clarity. Now, when it comes to actually doing business, I'm starting to work with businesses. I'm starting to tiptoe into the corporate world. And what I'm finding is I'm unwilling to play their game because there is a paradigm that I belong to that is in the future where we have embedded restoration into every financial transaction and you no longer take from the planet without giving back. Now, I've given myself enough to the natural world to have grounded myself in a future reality that I am now trying to hold enough of myself in for the rest of me to catch up and to bring as much of the world with me as I possibly can. That's a really uncompromising position that I'm holding. That is a position that will not tolerate the bullshit of greed at the expense of all life. And as a woman, we've been taught to compromise endlessly. And one of the things that I feel right now is that we're moving into a time of no more compromise. Mm-hmm. Not when it's our children's futures that are in tatters, not when it's our grandchildren that we can't even think about bringing into the world now because of what's facing us. Now is a time for uncompromising honesty, truth, clarity, and the willingness to stand for your values and keep standing, even though the world may just want to say, we want to stay the same, we want to stay the same, you know, we don't want to hear that. Well, tough. To be true to yourself as a woman is to bring as much of Kali through as Durga. You know, it's to bring the truth speaking. It's to bring the uncompromising, fierce love. It's to bring the tenderness. It's to bring the all-embracing heart. And it's to bring the sword. You know, it's the whole lot. It's coming to know ourselves strongly enough to stand for something enough that it doesn't matter if the world boos at you and throws vegetables. You can still stand there because you're standing for yourself and you're standing for life and you're standing for what's coming through your own soul, and you will not stand for anything less. And when you are beaten down and when you are afraid and when your fears do get you, cry and then dance and then find your way back to the pleasure in your body and listen to the wisdom that wants to move through you and get back in the saddle. and have another go. And it doesn't matter what it looks like. What matters is that you know that you're being true to yourself as a woman.
And my final question is, what can women do right now to connect with the planet and to connect with each other?
You can go outside and you can say, you can get on your hands and knees, put your hands on the earth, put your forehead on the earth and say thank you.
I love that.
You can, it'll make me cry. You can go out and appreciate for every single thing you have, including your own body and including the bodies of everyone that you love, and the house that you live in, and the clothes that you wear, and the food that you eat, and every gadget that you have has come out of her body. And we've not asked for any of it. We've not asked for it. We've not given thanks for it. We've not appreciated her for it. We have taken everything as if it is our God-given right to take, without understanding what we are destroying in the process. The first step is to recognize that that can't go on. That we cannot go on ignoring her face, ignoring her body, pretending that we can take and take and take and expect her to keep giving. And that is a sane and respectful and reverent way to live. Because we wouldn't do it to our own mothers. And if we did, they'd be in as much of a mess as she is. But we are doing it. We are doing it, and we're doing it to our children. We're stealing our children's future, and they know it, and they're getting angry. And I don't know what sort of a future that they have. So the absolute first step is to go outside, recognize that we are in deficit in terms of gratitude, in terms of reverence, in terms of honoring our mother. And honor your mother. Go out with a gift, give her something, kneel down, say thank you, thank her for everything that you've got in your life, and let your heart break. Let your heart break, because it'll break into love for her, because she is our everything. And then from that connected place, look at your life and ask whether you can continue living in all the same ways that take her for granted, or whether you're willing to start to make any small change that acknowledges her. And as a tree sister, that means you start to reforest this planet. You realize that we can't sit there consistently pumping carbon dioxide into the atmosphere that we know that we're doing, knowing that our world is grinding to a halt because of carbon dioxide, and not clean it up with fast growing tropical trees. You know, we provide you with a very, very easy way of doing something very practical, measurable, impactful, and beautiful that will not just clean up your carbon, but it will protect endangered species. It will provide rainfall. It will change lives. It will transform lives, whilst we figure out what to do with our lifestyles, you know? And if you want to connect with women, it's a choice in every moment to understand where you sit inside yourself when you're in the presence of another woman, and then to look for her beauty, look for her amazingness, look for her brilliance. We call it sistering inside of Tree Sisters. It's a core practice. To sister another woman is to look for who she really is in there and celebrate it with every ounce of your body. What it does is it raises the vibration of both of you, and it makes something else possible, because you're actively choosing not to listen to her bullshit, horror, insecurities, or the stuff that she tells herself that is not true. It's all indoctrinated, adopted stuff. It's to look for her, and to keep that as a practice, to look for her, to encourage her, to love her, just because you can, because she's another woman. You can do that in every moment. You can do that walking down the street. You can do that in the supermarket. You can do that on the bus. Just love the women around you and start to feel that. And you can do it in a very real way inside of Tree Sisters. You know, every full moon, when we do our full moon calls and we weave the forest floor together. You can do it if you go to our resources on the website and look at all the tools that we offer you, where you can plug in at the energetic level to the sisterhood and feel the sisterhood. You can do it in the Nest, our online community. Again, all of this is there on the website. There is a global network of women who are actively looking for how to bring their gifts and service to the planet. There are entrepreneurs in there. There are mothers in there. There are grandmothers in there. There are, women who don't believe that they've got anything to give, discovering that they've got so much to give. We have the capacity to connect with nature, with ourselves, with others in any given moment. It's just a choice. It's a choice to slow down enough to feel and to bow and to honor and to open.
Thank you so much, Claire. If you are a woman watching this and you're called to explore Tree Sisters, to engage with them, to discover these practices, go to the website treesisters.org. There's amazing gifts and resources waiting there for you. And really my intention with this series is not that you leave simply feeling inspired and going about your life, although I do want you to feel inspired, but the intent is really to catalyze change in our lives and in the world. And Claire, I just want to thank you for being so fearless, and you really imbue that Kali energy, that fierceness right now that Mother Earth needs, because it's coming from a place of deep love and deep reverence and the knowing that we absolutely have to change. And I just really bow to you. I was moved to tears at points in this interview, and I really appreciate you and the work that Tree Sisters is doing. And let me just ask you, are there any final closing words so I can give you the last word of this interview? Amazing interview.
Well, people think of me as fearless. I'm fierce. I'm not fearless.
Mm-hmm.
I'm frightened all the time, but it doesn't stop me. I'm frightened every day, but it doesn't stop me. But don't think that there is some wild confidence here that carries me through. There isn't. There's love that carries me through. And I would also say, I had no idea what I was doing when I started this. I had none of the experience needed. I had nothing. I mean, on paper, I was the worst person that life could ever have given this to. And if you find yourself with dreams that make no sense, if you find yourself with dreams that are so confronting, you wouldn't even know where to start, they're the ones to pay attention to, because life is inviting us to discover who we are, and we have no clue. I had no idea that I would ever be able to accomplish what we've already accomplished, but I also feel like we're just about to start again. It's like Tree Sisters has had its first 7 years. We're moving into a whole new cycle up ahead. We're starting to campaign today. Today we start the campaign. The campaign is called Calling All Women. And we're calling all women because we are going to make 2020 Year of the Tree. And we're going to see what we can achieve through women around the world to seed completely different agenda around reforestation into the hearts of the masses over the next 10 years. Can we flip the rates of deforestation and reforestation? Can we do it? How could we do it? I don't know what it's going to take, but I do know it's going to take all of us. And so if you want to be part of a campaign that is basically reaching out to gather as many women from all around the world as we can, to get them into the Tree Sisters network so that we can start to hatch this egg, whatever it is that's going to produce the results that we want, then come and be part of the campaign. And lastly, I would just say, we have never, I don't think in the history of humanity, lived at a more precarious and therefore significant time. This is the most significant time to be alive. And if we are incarnate now, it's because our souls wanted to be here for this. Our souls have got something to contribute to this. And it's not apathy, and it's not overwhelm, and it's not lack of confidence. It's outrageousness. It's outrageous feminine fire, feminine reclamation, feminine leadership, feminine potency, feminine love, feminine inclusivity, feminine sensuality. It's the whole reclaimed river of women. And it's us that are being asked by life to rebirth this and reclaim this, so that the reclaimed feminine can help with the transformation of our human relationship to the mother that we are flying through space on, to Gaia. We have a crucial role right now. And the only way that we're going to be able to fulfill on that is by saying yes to ourselves at the deepest level. Yes to ourselves and yes to each other.
So if you are watching this interview, say yes. Say yes to that adventure, that call in you. You don't have to know how to get there. As you heard from Claire, she didn't know what she was going to do.
Still don't know.
Yeah, it's like,
don't know.
It's true.
We do it anyway.
Yes, do it anyway. Let go of the imperfections. And I hear you. It's not about fearlessness. It's about courage, which usually means taking action towards a vision in the face of all the fears that are coming up. And you really embody that beautifully, Claire. And I just thank you so much for your time today, for sharing your wisdom. And I really encourage everyone to visit treesisters.org to learn more about this campaign and how you can be part of the Tree Sisters movement.
Bless you, Sarah. I'm moved to tears by how received I feel by you. And I really hope that something of this touches everyone that's listening, and that you let it be a seed planted in your heart, and that you water it, and that you let it grow into something triumphantly magnificent, which is who and what you really are.